I have racial essentialism written down here on my pad. I think you gave a description of what you take to be Coates' argument about white supremacy and white privilege and so on. And West objecting to that, saying it fetishizes, and I can imagine what he means by that. But I want to talk about how it racially essentializes. And I want to say how deeply mistaken that framing of the issue is. And I could say it across everything from how do you fix schools to what should be the protocol governing police conduct in dangerous situations, to the tax bill, to immigration policy. I mean, there's serious issues. Okay, there are fundamental issues. And we've got, the African-American population, the marginal population, the impoverished population, the incarcerated population, the underclass population, the ghettoized population. Man, the world is moving so fast. The markets are changing. Everything is going upside down, and people are being left behind, and they're being ghettoized in some really deep and profound way. Okay, so now what are the intellectual effusions coming out of these various sources, whether it be the offices of The Atlantic, where, who's the editor there? Jeffrey Goldberg?
Right, yeah.
I heard him at Brown giving a talk. I went out of my way to go to the talk because I wanted to hear what he was going to say about Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he talked about how he was his friend, and he glowed with a certain kind of wonder and joy in the moment of, I'm not kidding.
Oh, I know you're.
So that is the tail wagging the dog, okay? To the extent that whatever titillates Jeffrey Goldberg, with due respect to him, okay? I don't mean this personally. Whatever titillates someone who sits in that position and others enshrine Ta-Nehisi Coates in the way that they have done, that's the tail wagging the dog if it becomes the center of the discourse about these issues that I'm talking about. A fast-moving, profoundly dynamic world, a marginalized people who have been historically oppressed, and an intellectual framework adequate to analyzing the moment and being a foundation for action, okay? So now Ta-Nehisi Coates is it's a phenomenon. I was talking about a bubble. I don't know how long bubbles last. I don't know, but I know there's no foundation there. Okay, so Cornel West, like I said, he has a shtick. Cornel West is not even any longer Cornel West. He's this act.
Glenn, let me ask you something.
No. Let me just say one thing. Excuse me. Okay.
Okay.
I just gave a lecture at Columbia University 2 weeks ago.
Which I'm sorry I had to
the
miss.
Kenneth Arrow Lecture, the 10th annual Kenneth Arrow Lecture, and I provided an analysis. Now, if y'all gonna get mad at me for a self-reference here, audience, go ahead and get mad at me. I provided an analysis, okay? You can go to glennlowry.com and link, you can get the video, you can get the text. I provided an analysis. Now, it might be right or it might be wrong, but it's a structured, disciplined, foundational vision about what the nature of these issues are. I happen to be an economist, and I am not apologizing for being a neoliberal to the extent that I think capitalism is a system that is basically liberating billions of poor people on this planet and creating completely new technological universes which we are inhabiting and making us richer than our grandparents could ever have imagined. I actually believe that. Okay, but I have an analysis of the racial situation. It may be right or it may be wrong, but it's an attempt to provide a disciplined intellectual foundation for doing something here. That's what I'm interested in, not in the effusions of Cornel West and Ta-Nehisi Coates arguing about each other on Twitter. And do you know that he canceled his Twitter account? I know you know that, and you should talk about that.
But first, Glenn, actually, in the grand scheme of things, Ta-Nehisi Coates getting rid of his Twitter account, we live in a time when that made the front page of the New York Times. That's less important. What is your prescription? I want to know. Ta-Nehisi Coates not being on Twitter is not as interesting to me as that. What was your prescription?
Okay.
Can you put it in so many words?
Yeah, I think I can put it in so many words. Okay, so what I'm saying is that there are two narratives about Black disadvantage, a bias narrative and a development narrative. Okay, and I'm saying that the issue is development. Okay, so bias is what it is, and we know about racism, we know about white supremacy. Nobody's discounting that. We know about discrimination. We know about exclusion. We know about underrepresentation. Bias, anti-discrimination, the idea of equal rights, civil rights. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing. All right? The issue today is development. The jails are full of people. You've got two narratives. The system, Michelle Alexander, or families and communities failing to nurture and develop their young people so that they're able, socialized, and fit to occupy civil society. And they're incarcerated. That's another narrative, okay? If we don't address the developmental disparities, look at the African-American family, okay? Now, you see people, they're going to go off on some kind of wild tangent. I'm talking about 65 or 70% of kids born to unmarried women. You can't tell me that that doesn't matter. It matters. There could be many explanations for it. Don't try to ignore that fact. Development. The test scores, this whole edifice that we've built of diversity and inclusion is founded on a lie, John, because the issue is performance, and the Asians have demonstrated that. The facts are so palpable that it amazes me that people can't look at them. The Asians have demonstrated. These are people who are second-generation descendants from people who were born 10,000 miles from here. It's an open society. African-American underrepresentation is a reflection of African-American underdevelopment. Now, we can go into the historical reasons for that. If the issue is who is to blame, there'll be plenty enough blame to go around. But the fundamental imperative is to enhance development. And that won't happen unless you acknowledge the absence of it. The test scores reflect an inadequate acquisition of functional and cognitive capacities essential to functioning in the modern world. And the gaps are enormous, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm saying development versus bias, okay? I also had to have an intellectual thing to my economists. I mean, that's the other thing that I will say here. I'm rooted in a discipline. I'm talking about hundreds of departments around the world and tens of thousands of scholars. Okay? There's a literature. You refer to the work that has gone before. You operate within a framework in which there has been elaborated carefully a set of insights, assumptions, presumptions, techniques, and methods, concepts that have been tested on a global basis for centuries. Okay? Kenneth Arrow was a genius. The honor of being able to give that lecture before the assembled multitudes, they had a symposium at the university, the day-long symposium with a half dozen or more panels of people presenting short talks based on ideas that had been inspired by Kenneth Arrow. He has 6 or 8 of his students are Nobel laureates. That's the real deal. It's the actual university. It is the elite venue where the frontiers are being advanced, okay? How many students of Cornell West are functioning at that level? How many students of Henry Louis Gates Jr. are functioning at that level? I'm not even talking about Ta-Nehisi Coates. The Afro Studies hustle, the avoidance of the necessity of failure against standards in order for the standards to be meaningful and for the kind of disciplines and capacities that constitute excellence to be honed and developed. It's a shell game. It's a lie. Okay? That's what I'm saying. To say that the jails are full of black people means that the criminal justice system is racist, and to leave it at that? When the bodies pile up in Chicago and elsewhere? To talk about diversity and inclusion is the way of legitimating and institutionalizing a deferential and racist withholding of judgment from African-American people to perform at the level of excellence that a place like MIT or Caltech or Brown or Columbia or Yale requires. I mean, I'm really, really angry about this because people are being dishonest about this in the interest of a coon show, John, a coon show.
Well, go ahead.
That's what we're talking about.